This is the sixth book in a series called the Horror Story Volumes. So this is Horror Story Volume 6, entitled Bedtime Story. It was written by G.M.Hague and narrated by the author, myself, G.M.Hague. While I call these Horror Story Volumes a series, these are all standalone books, and you don't have to read them in any chronological or numerical order. I'm an Australian author, and my novels, unless it's otherwise really obvious, are by default set in Australia and populated by Australian characters. I'll also point out that I'm fortunate enough to live in the southwest countryside of Western Australia, along with my beautiful wife Lisa, 3 Great Danes, 2 donkeys, and a tremendous amount of wildlife that has absolutely no regard for anyone trying to record an audiobook in my studio. Despite my best efforts to avoid it, you still may occasionally hear very faint bird noises in the background. I've tried recording at night, but then you just get the frogs. These noises are almost inaudible and don't impact on the quality of the recording, but using some listening devices, you may just hear 1 or 2. I also want to point out that this book, Bedtime Story, like all my other stories, took on a life of its own while I was writing it. I always let the narrative and plotline take me where it wants to go. In the case of Bedtime Story, it's resulted in what you might consider some strong sex content that you won't normally find in my books. When I say strong, I'm sure it's still a long way short of the kind of stuff you'll find in any erotica or hardcore romance novels. But all the same, I thought it was worth mentioning here before you listened any further. Some of you may listen to this and say, "What are you talking about? You call that explicit sex?" But I'm still going to play it safe with this warning. The opposite applies too. If you appreciate the sex scenes, don't be annoyed if you can't find a similar level of such content in my other novels. It's always what the story demands, and Bedtime Story just needed a little bit of this explicit content. Having given you this warning, if you still find the content offensive, or perhaps more than you expected, please accept my apologies. Author's Introduction to Bedtime Story. The BBC TV network airs a show called Antiques Roadshow, where people are encouraged to dig out their old, dilapidated and often very boring rubbish from attics and basements for antiques experts to evaluate as a potentially hidden treasure. Of course, there's always 1 or 2 gems discovered each episode, a clay pot or a lost Rembrandt. On one show, somebody had dragged an entire bed, no less, to the roadshow for the producers to value. It was well over 100 years old, and the girl who owned it claimed the bed was the most comfortable thing she'd ever slept in. No surprise, I couldn't help immediately thinking about who else had slept in it during that century of dreams and nightmares, not to mention who made love in it, been born in it, even died in it. And maybe someone had been murdered in it. A lot of spiritual and supernatural theory is based on a concept that we leave something behind when we die, particularly in spaces we frequent a lot, like our favourite room, the beloved garden, or any other special place. We spend almost half our lives in bed, right? So I looked at that ancient bed on the television and wondered what might happen if someone really unhappy had died on or near that bed. Did the mattress soak up the misery, the hatred, the anger of dying? Could a bed be possessed with the enraged, evil spirit of someone who breathed their last in its warm, soft embrace? It makes perfect sense to me. If you're reading this book lying in your bed, sweet dreams, and maybe leave the light on. This book also includes a character used in one of my earlier books, called The Mirror of Madness. A woman called Isabel Gowdy, also known as the Aldern Witch, who confessed in 1662, claimed that she first met a man in grey on the Downs, and he baptised her that same evening in the local church. She described the witch's Sabbath with a coven of 13 women, and her power to transform herself into a hare or a cat. She had intercourse with demons and even the devil himself. The sperm of the devil was icy cold. The man in grey continues today to be one of the many pseudonyms for the devil. Chapter 1.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?